The lighting that I used for the narration scenes were taken from a setup I found while experimenting with different sorts of light. The setup for the narrator scenes includes 2 cameras on either side of the set. This records the over-the-shoulder footage of both the narrators. I also have a camera in the middle facing them on profile, so I can get good 2 shots of them. This camera is mounted on the homemade dolly track, so I can track around the table. At first I experimented with lighting coming from the left or right sides of the scene. I found that if I had 2 sets of lighting 90 degrees apart facing the centre of the set, that shadow was taken out of the picture. If I only had one lighting, one lighting on the left, shadow would be displayed on the right, and vice versa. If I only had one light pointing directly at them on profile, there'd be much shadow behind them. This is why I use 2 lights, separate but pointing in the same direction. This then cancels out each other's shadow and creates a very clean, bare-looking set. The ending sequence of my short film involves a long tracking shot from the narrator's desk to the door, in which the camera tracks backwards through the door and the door slams on the camera. Now, I recreated this using a friend's wheelchair as the basis for my dolly track. I used bungee cords to attach the tripod to the wheelchair. I practiced using the wheelchair and found it became useful in many of the shots during the short film to track back and forth along the table. When it came to using the homemade dolly track for the ending shot, I timed the speed of the dolly track moving backwards towards the door with the actor's dialogue, saying the rest of the lines, "The camera is out the door," in which case the door can slam on the camera. Right. I took this idea from many classic Hitchcock films, in which the camera, after seeing the murder, tracks backwards, out of the door, down the staircase, through another door, and the door slams on the camera. This then ends the film. The technique I used to close the door without anyone being there involved a meter rule being wedged in the door. This held the door open, and when I tracked back in the wheelchair holding the camera, filming the 2 narrators in the background bickering amongst themselves, the camera tracked out of the door. I pulled the stick, which then closed the door on the camera. While editing the footage, I span up the speed of it several times to give the impression that the door is slamming. The sound of the door slamming, however, was not spun forward, otherwise it would have sounded ridiculous. Therefore, I cut the footage, separated it from the sound, used the same sound, and matched it up. When the door closes, you get a loud slam noise, which is in the original footage.